Phil Bedford, our guest today, is a leading expert in relationship marketing, referral marketing, and business networking.
So what is a network? A network is a group of people who meet on a regular basis around a common thing. Ultimately, there's only two ways to grow your business, to get clients. You can spend money, the historic way, which is pay for staff to do sales, do advertising, do marketing, or you can get them for free. I think the biggest challenge you've got, and this is where a lot of people probably move away from things like networking, is because for a lot of people, networking is reactive.
What is this one struggle people have for asking for referrals?
I think the biggest one is it goes back to the curse of the entrepreneur. The two most powerful business skills are the ability to sell and the ability to build and leverage networks. If you approach a networking event like a sales call, i.e. selling at everyone you meet, it's not going to work. If you're going to be connecting with people online, at the end of the day, you can't eat likes. You can't eat likes. You've got to get them off there and make something happen.
Welcome to the Forward Thinking People podcast. I'm Namita Ramani, and today we have an exceptional guest who is truly a master at transforming networking into a superpower. Phil Bedford, our guest today, is a leading expert in relationship marketing, referral marketing, and business networking. With over 15 years of experience as the master franchisee for Ascentive in the UAE and GCC and the co-founder of Strategic Business Connect, Phil has helped countless businesses in Dubai and beyond to build powerful personal networks, close more deals, and achieve spectacular growth. Phil's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Having lived in the Middle East since 1998, he leverages his extensive business acumen, a master's degree, and a decade of experience in sales training, business development, and consulting. He's also an engaging and inspiring international speaker, author of 5 books, and is known for captivating audiences with his insightful talks on business and personal development. Phil has worked with various clients from startups to established businesses moving to Dubai, helping them overcome competition and build local credibility. He is not only passionate about helping businesses succeed, but also about ensuring entrepreneurs maintain a healthy work-life balance. Phil's expertise includes strategic sales training through referral marketing, networking training, social media strategies, and professional speakers training. His work with organizations like Hard Rock Cafe, Bahrain Economic Development Board, Abu Dhabi government, and numerous others showcase his ability to deliver high-impact training and consulting across diverse cultures and markets. He has been featured in Forbes and BBC, a TED speaker, and a professional scuba diver, kite surfer, and salsa dancer. Phil, it's an honor to have you. I missed to add that you have also done the Ironman. Yes, my God. The longest intro I think I've done so far. You have so much under your belt. How do you do so much? How?
Oh my goodness. I suppose it's always just keeping your eyes open, eh?
Yeah, and all the sports is also moving keeping your legs.
Hands moving all this. Keep moving, I'm getting old.
We would love to hear your story about, your journey on how you've grown with Ascentive here and your networking and Strategic Business Connect. Just share with us about your business journey in Dubai.
Oh my goodness. So I actually came out on holiday, oddly enough. I was working in the UK in recruitment, and a friend of mine was on holiday. I was looking for a holiday. I was living on my own, didn't know where to go, so I popped out to Dubai on holiday.
This is which year you're talking about?
Probably would have been 97.
People came for holiday to Dubai at that time?
Yeah, a friend of mine was an air hostess. So popped out to see her, met a boyfriend and all that, and went desert driving, as you do. And at the end of the session, a gentleman said to me, we got talking, well, you let the tyres down, sit me on the sand. So we're at the end, we're pumping the tyres back up. And he says, oh, what do you do? So we started talking. And he said, do you want to come in and see my business? Which was a company called The Image Works. It was an exhibition stands development company, large format printing. And thought I'd have a look. Anyway, I went back to the UK and he chased me up, offered me a job. And I was in the UK. I was a little bit bored. Wasn't much happening. I thought, why not? So I came out to Dubai and pretty much started the job immediately. And I was a little bit foolish. I didn't actually do the conversion between sterling to dirhams. And I realized that I wasn't on a very good wage. And so I'd luckily been teaching salsa in the UK part-time. And so I started teaching salsa here as well with the permission of the gentleman that I was working with. And so immediately started off my own business. Wow. So I was running the two in tandem.
So you're teaching salsa since 1998?
8.
8. Wow.
And then 2 years in the UK before that. Yeah.
And how does salsa and networking mix then?
Oh, you'd be surprised. Actually, I use this as an example in some of my sessions, because the thing about any network or any group of people. So what is a network? A network is a group of people who meet on a regular basis around a common theme. So that's a book club, salsa, whatever. So I was in salsa. That was my network. And of course, I was quite visible in that network because I was teaching. So of course, everyone gets to like you. Number one, you're visible. The job of any network is to be visible. Then it's to be credible. So they're like, oh yeah, this person looks like they know what they're doing. That's someone I can trust. And of course, when you're a teacher, it helps. And then people were interested. Also, what do you do when you're not teaching? And of course, they'd research me, look for me online. So when I moved into business, a couple of things happened. Number one, my first client came through the salsa class. Okay. It was a young lady that I was teaching, took me to her dad's IT company and said, Dad, you need to get this guy in. So he did what his daughter told him. Then I got a lot of my articles also through the Gulf Times, Khalij Times, all these kind of things, Gulf News. They all came through salsa. So my network immediately started to help my other business. And this is one of the things we talk about later on when we talk about strategy, is actually how can your social networking be impacting your business? So that's kind of immediately how it started impacting it. And then picked up my first 2 franchisees through my salsa network as well.
Which were?
Two people that worked with me. One was called Cordelia, the other was called Shrida. And met them both through my
they
salsa
joined
network. For the incentive.
The program.
Yeah, both through salsa.
And so you've been managing a center for you still have the franchise with you?
Still have it, yep, since 98. Beg your pardon, 2008. 2008 I actually started the master. And yes, still in there today.
So what was the process of getting a franchise back then? Did you have a background in this business?
Actually, so I was involved in a networking group called BNI.
Right.
And I was one of their consultants. So I started off as a member. They asked me to then start launching and training and coaching their chapters, as they call them. And that was really my first step into coaching and training. I'd always wanted to do it, but that was the first real opportunity to do it. And I did that for a couple of years, and then the owner of BNI in the region came to me, and an opportunity had arisen in my personal life, and I didn't have a full-time job anymore. And he said, Phil, his name was BJ Shah, and BJ said to me, Phil, I need to talk to you about this thing called, in those days it was Referral Institute, it's now called Incentive. We need to talk to you about this. And I was like, what is it? And so anyway, the 2 of us took a trip to Bristol in the UK. And I must admit, I sat there and had no idea what it was. Still didn't know what it was. All I knew was I liked the sound. Something about it looked good. And I think it all came down to, at the end of the day, it was about networking for me, which was people. It was about helping people. It was about being able to make a difference. It was about feeding something inside me which wanted to be relevant and be seen to be relevant. So it just ticked all the boxes for me. But oddly enough, I still didn't know what it was. Yeah. So when I got involved, it was afterwards that I really found out what it was.
Which is referral marketing.
Which was, and how it worked. By that time, I'd already been to California and everything, and it was just a gut feeling for me. So, that was the start of it all. Thank you, BJ.
I remember I was also a startup at that time. It was back in 2008, right? You mentioned. And I remember meeting you then. And you invited me for, I think there was an intro session or something you had. And I had come down to see, there were 2 things. One, there was a huge investment at that time. It seemed huge, of money and time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, asking referrals is something not very easy. Asking people for, is it? How do you find, how easy was it to grow, to stabilize this company and grow it? What were your challenges with referral marketing, making people invest in training on understanding referral marketing system and using it for their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, you got a ton of questions in there.
Yeah.
The one I would say is it's to actually get going using the material actually it was a benefit, because ultimately there's only 2 ways to grow your business, to get clients. You can spend money, the historic way, which is pay for staff to do sales, do advertising, do marketing. You can pay, or you can get them for free. So I'll say it again. You can get clients by paying, or you can get clients for free. And the interesting thing is everyone knows how to get it by paying because there's plenty of experts out there that will show you. But getting them for free, that's a different dynamic. But, yeah, everybody knows that networking, recommendations, referrals, all that's fantastic. But for most people, that's all chance.
Because it is chance, isn't it?
Until you can find a way of making it not chance. And that's what Ascentive specialized in. They'd found a system and a process so you could actually take the chance out of it and actually make it happen using probability and a number of other factors. And so when I launched my business, I actually launched my business with only, I think it was £15,000 in my pocket. And I'm still here today. I had no investors. I've never borrowed money. I've never gone out and said I need investment. I did it all with £15,000 in my own pocket. What was that, about 60,000 dirhams? And I'm still here 17 years later. And then I think the key was because I learned to build my business in a frugal manner by using the right relationships. And so it is interesting, I find, when people say, in those days, to actually do the training was probably about $4,000. And that is an investment. For some people, it's a lot. But if I turn around to someone and said, for an investment of $4,000, your business will still be alive in 16 years' time, is that expensive? No, because you'll spend that much on social media for the month. So actually, it isn't. That's the biggest problem we have is people don't understand the value.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the biggest challenge. So it's been an amazing journey.
But say you're doing. Because maybe I come from advertising, I have an agency, and when we run paid ad campaigns, for example, the minute I play the campaign, you have leads coming in, you have new business coming in. But when it comes to, I'm not saying, I think referral marketing networking is great, and you must do that as part of your lead generation, as part of your business development. They are important parts of the business. But if I was to solely depend on referral marketing, so say example, I took the course, I'm a business owner, a startup, I take the referral marketing course with Ascentive, with you. I'm first, how many months? 3 months, 6 months?
3 months.
3 months course. So I have to invest 3 months of studying, training. You'll make us go through the program. When will I start seeing the results? It'll take me years, right?
No, not at all. Depends on the individual. So the way the program we're talking about called Ascentive Pro is actually structured is it's a little bit like going to the gym. Immediately you're applying it to your business. So oddly enough, from a results perspective, we've had people that have generated results in the first couple of weeks because it changes the way they think, it changes what they do, changes the way they behave in every single interaction in their life. So you can often see people recuperating their money immediately. I think the biggest challenge you've got, and this is where a lot of people probably move away from things like networking, is because for a lot of people, networking is reactive. You wait until someone gives you a call for a referral. You wait until someone refers you. You go to a networking event, you hope you bump into somebody. Whereas when you're doing digital marketing, even cold calling, if I do enough of this, if I spend enough of that, I will get results. Because by probability and statistics, you will. So then you look at networking, it's like, well, what can I do proactively so that I know I'll get the results? And that's where you need to turn it on its head, because you can actually do outreach on your referral marketing. You can actually proactively outreach in the same way that you would in cold calling or paid marketing. You can do that, but people don't do that because they don't know that part of it exists.
Okay.
And that's the bit would be nice if people understood.
So what is this one struggle people have for asking for referrals?
I think the biggest one is it goes back to the curse of the entrepreneur.
The curse of the entrepreneur.
Yeah, we don't like to ask for help.
Yeah. Is it just entrepreneur or anybody?
A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. A lot of people actually are uncomfortable asking for help for whatever reason. Could be cultural, could be pride, whatever. So here's something. Try this. If I said to you and everyone listening here, can I ask you a question? The question is, do you like to help other people?
Yes.
Right, and look how quick you were on that one, right? Yes. And most people out there will go, yeah. Do you feel good? Yeah. Okay, great. So how comfortable do you feel asking for help? Ooh, different shift. So there's a disconnect, right? So actually, You don't feel comfortable asking for help, but you love to help. So what that means is, if I'm not asking you for help, I'm actually stopping you from doing something you enjoy. So as long as I can get over that, by asking for help, you're actually letting somebody else enjoy themselves more because they want to help you.
But I have had experience, I've tried once or twice asking for a connection or an introduction, and it has not happened.
So
and those bad experiences, I will never ever want to do that ever again.
No. And do you know there's a number of reasons why that could be. There's many reasons that could be. You know, one reason could be that they're actually not connected to the people you need, or they're not in the position to help you, even if they'd like to, but they're too embarrassed to say they can't. So they just go, they nod and don't do anything. And then you sit there going, oh, well, they didn't help when I asked. But the trouble is, they might not be able to. So this is, again, when we're coaching people on this thing, it's just because someone's not connecting you, you need to work out why. We often say that one of the reasons people don't help us is we haven't actually done enough for them. So like there's a thing called reciprocity, pay it forward. You know, if I buy you a cup of coffee, as a decent human being, what do you want to do?
Buy you back.
Buy me a coffee back, right?
Or maybe more,
or maybe
a muffin
more.
or stuff.
Or maybe a muffin, or when we're going. But what if I were to buy you 3 or 4 cups of coffee?
Then I would be doing everything to make it happen, to maybe make sure that you come with me out for coffee and I buy you one.
Yeah, you'd literally be, Phil, we need to go for a coffee because I have to buy you one, right?
Absolutely.
Or turn that energy into helping someone in business. So if someone's done enough for you and they keep going and you're a decent human being, you're going to be right. You need to sit down because I need to find a way to help you. Yeah. Imagine that energy. So imagine if you had a network of people around you, all super connected, all who had access to the clients you want, and your strategy was to help them as much as you possibly could, and they're all decent people. It isn't going to be long before it starts coming back.
Yeah. Is this the investment of that much time to build those networks?
Of course it is.
But relationships take time, Phil.
Absolutely.
Trust,
So they better start building them
rapport.
yesterday, right?
Absolutely.
And this is the other thing, is people leave it until it's too late.
But
So we're always building relationships.
we are always building. But say I meet someone at a networking event at Strategic Business Connect, for instance. I have to meet that person at least 5 to 8 more times to build that connection, for it to reach, for that person to know me, for that person to refer me to someone, and for that person to think of me to, connect and all.
Yeah, there's every chance you're right. So here's the thing, right? Relationship marketing and networking is one strategy. It's not the only one. So you're still doing the other stuff anyway, right?
You're just still running your
Still
ads.
running your ads. We're not saying to
things.
people stop doing that, because everything that works, whatever works, do it. As long as it's getting you what you want. But here's the thing. What if I started that conversation 8 weeks ago with somebody, and I'm having this new conversation with a new person now? Well, the one that I met 8 weeks ago, the benefit's dropping in while I meet this person, and then 8 weeks later that'll drop in, and then 8 weeks later someone else will drop. So what you do is, as long as you're always doing it, you've always got the benefit dropping in.
Until it picks up enough momentum that you don't need other types of paid advertising.
So I mean, in an ideal world, if you had enough of that coming in, maybe you wouldn't need to spend as much money. But at the end of the day, the reality is you need to be growing your business in a way that's bringing in enough, right? So if you can do your marketing and it's working, do it. If you've got a sales team and they're bringing in deals, do it. But what I find is most people are not accessing the network as well as they could.
And how should they? How do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Learn how to do it.
Invest in
learning how to do it. I mean, the interesting thing is, the 2 most powerful business skills are the ability to sell and the ability to build and leverage networks. And yet, how many people learn them before they start a business? You and I are a great friend of Ramiz Halou, who's one of the top sales trainers I've ever met.
Yes, he's my sales coach.
Yeah, and he's an awesome lad, right? And even he'll tell you the amount of businesses that don't train their sales teams. Well, if they're not training them in their sales teams, what's the chance they're getting trained in networking? Pretty much none. And yet, can you imagine the power of just having the right connections? One of the first things I learned in Dubai, and this is years ago, was back in the days of the exhibition stand sales and all that. And I remember someone saying to me, Phil, I get really annoyed because I get these quotes to pitch for business, but I know they're getting 3. Right? I know I'm only one of them, and the other two, the other one's a waste like me, and I know the other one, they're going to give it to their friend.
Right? Just getting for comparison.
Yeah, get it for comparison. But I know they're going to give it to their friend. And I said, well, stop complaining. Become the friend.
But how do I become the friend? What if he doesn't like networking?
But what is networking? Networking is about relationships, ultimately.
Yeah.
Someone once said to me, sorry, Phil, I don't have time to network. I said, oh, so that means you don't have time for family? You don't have any friends? You don't have any sports? You don't have any hobbies? Because that's all networking. Networking is relationships.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, the trouble is, I think what we're touching on here is when people say networking, they're thinking of handing out business cards,
it's a networking
pitching their
thing.
business and trying to close deals. And that is so not
wrong.
networking. That's handing out business cards.
It is so true. Like even when you hang out with your friends and if you talk business, you just talk about your work, you are kind of, that's your network as well. And they'll keep you in mind when they're having a conversation with somebody else looking for your kind of services. And it has so much happened with me in my business that people know me, my friends know me, and then if they meet someone, they refer business to me, and it keeps flowing in.
Absolutely.
So important to have this. Imagine if I did the same thing in the business world and made different kind of a network.
There you go, right? And I think what you've done well is you have a certain community that obviously that's worked. The dynamic shifts though when you need to scale it up. So suddenly what I've been getting is not enough anymore. Suddenly my expenses in my business means I have to double that, but I'm relying on referrals. So what do I do? Well, suddenly you've got to build your network really quickly, or you've got to double. And so that's where you have to move from what we naturally do to putting a little bit more purpose and planning behind it. So I think one of the things we all suffer from in the UAE is because it is ultimately transient. Okay, so for a lot of people, when they're in their home countries, they can spend 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years building their friends, building their contacts, building their database, building their business, so they can afford to get referrals. So they do come, and the word of mouth's in the market because they've been there long enough. Yeah. You suddenly leave and come here, and you're starting from scratch, and you don't have 20 years to build that network. So how do you do it quickly? And that's, I think, where people can understand that you can put a system to it rather than sitting and waiting and hoping.
And what is the system?
Well, again, that's what we teach.
You have to join Referral Marketing Institute.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's not so. For us, can you give us one tip from the whole treasure box?
Oh my gosh!
Of
there's
what
so
we can
many.
implement today and see the benefit.
Okay, there's a couple. If we're actually talking about networking, I think the big one is to understand that it's not just about walking to a thing that says networking event.
Okay.
It's anytime you're around people.
It's not limited to an event.
No, not at all. It's anytime you're around people. But the other thing, but then once you're there, is to realize that you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them proportionally. Which means listen. So ask people questions, let them talk, and then try and find ways that you can help them. So if ever anyone's saying, I can't, I don't know how, so anything negative, it means on the end of that negative statement, you could help them with a connection or something. And if you can start helping people, then we've started the whole snowball rolling of goodwill.
As I'm talking to you, the networking events I've been to is flashing in my brain. And I'm just thinking, the other day, one of the events I went to, and I think the hard way you could say I've understood by going to a networking event, my goal is not to hand my business cards or get any business. I'm just going to know people and see if I can make a connection and just maintain that connection. That's the purpose I go now. But when I go there and I'm being approached by so many, so I'll see people just coming up to me and talking to me, introducing their business, and I do this and I do that. And then they just shift from me to someone else and I have their business card. So at that time you don't think of helping. Like I feel annoyed more than I'm like, thank you so much for the introduction. And I just wait for that person to carry on to the next person they are going to. So how do you, it doesn't matter. You have to overcome that feeling of being annoyed and still think of ways to help them.
Well, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? I think there's something else. I think when you do go to network, you need to understand why you're going. So for what purpose are you going? And not everybody goes to get business. Some people are going just to be in an environment where they feel supported. Yeah, so
and inspired. I get motivated when I see all these other
exactly.
business owners.
Yeah, one of my
around me.
networks is SABCO, so the South African Business Council. So I'm a member there for their business. And, you know, a lot of members there are there because they're South Africans and they want a piece of home. So it's very supportive, you know. And then you can go to a network where it is, you know, I'm a small business owner. I need to get business, right? But then it's understanding that if you approach a networking event like a sales call, i.e. selling at everyone you meet, it's not going to work. So you may go with the intention of still getting clients, but what you need to understand is there's a different process. You can't jump into it and sell. You have to jump into it and understand you're going to have to go back. It could take, as you rightly said, 5 to 8 times of going back. You have to contribute. You have to help people. You have to be a decent person. You have to be reliable. That is the process to success. But unfortunately, not everybody does that because they're told to go networking by their bosses, which is go to that place, hand out 30 business cards, give them all a call, try and close them. Well, that's not networking. That's cold calling face to face. And it's no wonder it doesn't work, because people don't understand the process. And I think particularly if you're a small business owner who needs clients now, and I get that, we've all been down there, you know, things are tight, I need clients. To get rid of that energy in a networking event is tough. Yeah. And we're probably surrounded by loads of people that really need business now. And they need to know that pulling back a little bit is going to help them go forward. And if they can engage the helping bit, pull back on the sales, everyone in the environment is helping each other and listening and trying to generate a positive environment. I think it's something that can flow. But again, not everybody has learned how to network.
Yeah. You have to learn it to get the benefit of it. Tell us about Strategic Business Connect, which you have with your wife, Michelle.
Oh, yes, that's very exciting. So
how did that happen?
Oh, my goodness. So my wife was quite senior in the school system in Dubai, many, many years in high-level education. And that all came to an end quite quickly, just towards the end of COVID. And so she found herself in a place where she would never expect to be, which was, well, what do you do now? You know, her whole life was supposed to be a teacher. And so she had a bit of a passion for cooking. So she said, okay, I'm going to start my own coaching business in cooking. So being who I am, she's like, okay, Phil, how do I get my clients? Okay. And of course, she's never been in business, so there's a big void there as to knowledge. And so what I immediately did was say, well, look, you need to start hanging out with people, i.e. small business owners like yourself. So she started to network with me. And actually over the last year, she's actually transitioned from that, the cooking, into actually getting more involved in what became Strategic Business Connect, which was a place where we could help other small business owners more. So it was a mixture of Michelle really getting involved with that, and also Michelle's absolute, it blows me away. She's a better networker than I am, okay, because she's naturally really good with people. She's a fantastic leader. People want to be around her. She loves to help, all the great things that make networking work, right? And I think she spotted the opportunity along with my knowledge on how to make this work. So we built SBC because there was a big gap in the market. So there are some networking groups that are super structured. You know, if you don't turn up, you're kicked out. You know, you need to give referrals. You need to turn up. So super structured. And then you've got others, which we sometimes refer to as spray and pray. You know, turn up and kind of hope something happens. And so there's a massive scale. And we felt there was a gap in the middle that was maybe a little bit more strategic, but also wasn't quite as intense, that was very focused. And so we built that opportunity, Strategic Business Connect. So it's online, it's offline. You know, there's it's now starting to go overseas. We're getting people approaching us to overseas with it. So that's where it came from, really, is a gap in the market. And it's been a really exciting journey to do that with my wife.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I've attended one of the SBC events, and you have a thing called speed networking.
It's actually, we actually call it Super Connect because it's not speed networking. I know where you're coming from. Yeah. Some people have experienced speed networking. You can see them cringe because speed networking is more than often than not speed selling at each other. Yeah. And networking and sales don't mix. Yeah. But all you're going to do is you stick people on a table and they sell at each other for half an hour, and it's horrible. So we took some elements of that, but made a very significant change that really makes it pleasurable. And that's one of the core things we've done, which is very, very special.
How is it successful? Have you got some numbers in? How is it helping the members?
Well, number one is the feedback people give you.
Yeah.
Right. So I suppose the testimony is the people that come back. Right. Because we've established earlier on, if people don't come back, they're not allowing the success to come, because you have to come back 5 to 8 times, right? That's what we talked about.
Yes.
So if people don't come back, then they're never going to have that success. So that's the first one, because then the success starts to come.
Yeah.
And then, of course, just repeatedly, again, my wife networked in some places, which are great networks, but she came back saying, there's too many people. I feel lost. I don't have a voice. No one seems to have any time for me. And so we listened to this and said, okay, there's other ways of doing this. And so really it starts with just making it more human and recognizing the fact that people want to network in different ways. And by the way, there'll be people that don't like our format.
Yeah.
And that's fine. The great thing is, all I would say is find a network that ultimately cares about its members, that wants to help them. And as long as you're comfortable and it's serving you, go there, wherever it is.
Whatever works
Wherever
for you.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. You have, on one of your social posts, I noticed you shared something about converting social conversations into real deals.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? How do you make a social connection into a real-time deal? Do you have any tips for us? It was, I think, somewhere on LinkedIn you shared a post related to this.
Oh, goodness me, you've researched it. Oh, help. Well, I mean, there's so many different elements, different ways you can call it a social conversation into a result. So you
Online conversation.
Yeah,
that was the article. That was the conversation. I think it was something about this. I think Referral Accelerator or something. Where you teach that.
Yes, I mean the big possibility, or I think one of the least activated ways of getting clients here is LinkedIn. So, for example, there's plenty of people on LinkedIn that are having social conversations. They're commenting on each other's posts and posting stuff, and it doesn't go any further than that. People just sit there and comment on LinkedIn, and it doesn't tend to always come into the real world. Yeah. So the question is, if you're going to be connecting with people online, at the end of the day, you can't eat likes.
Correct.
You can't eat likes. You got to get them off there and make something happen. So it's also about, how do you take people from these kind of platforms, take the right people, because you ain't got time to see everybody, and then move those right people into a conversation where either you can, and move them into that networking conversation we were talking about earlier on.
And
how can I help you? Who are you? How can you help me? And then how can we transition that
into a deal?
Yeah, into a deal. And by the way, it may not be a deal as in I get something. It might be something as in you get something, or someone else gets something. Because as long as somebody's being served, the goodwill's rolling. Now, that person who comes off LinkedIn, I get him a referral over there. And then suddenly it feels really great. Oh, Phil guy helped me. So I haven't got anything immediately, but they may refer me. So there's always a benefit if people can take the time and effort. It just may not be an immediate one.
And how do I find the right people that I should meet in person from LinkedIn? Is there a trick
or
a tip?
You're moving into strategies, a big time strategy. But I've got a couple of tests. And one of my tests is, of course I use the filtering and everything, but the other one is, do you fancy coming and joining me? I run a Zoom call once a month on Zoom. and basically I just invite all these people and say, hey, instead of us just sitting here liking and commenting and connecting all these followers, why don't we actually grab a Zoom call? And I'll bring another 10 or 15 people in there.
And let's have a chat.
Let's have a chat. And I'll introduce you to another 10 people. And you will not believe how many people say, no, I don't do that.
They don't want to come on.
No, sorry, you're on LinkedIn to meet people, but no, you won't go and meet people. Right? And so what this is leaning towards, I think, is a gentleman once said, he said, the biggest way to waste your time is to talk about relationships and caring to transactional people.
That is so well said. Because transactional people don't care about relationship and caring.
No. They're using these platforms to sell. They're not using them for the human element side of things. And that's okay. There's different ways to use them. But if you're using it to sell, you need to spend a lot more money.
I think business in general is hard work, don't you think?
Absolutely.
If you think about it. In general, you have to be a master of your craft. You need to wear all these different hats. Entrepreneurship.
It's not easy.
Not easy.
No, we've, I've been blessed to work with some quite senior COOs and CEOs over the years. I won't mention the companies, but very senior in this region. And a couple of those individuals have been humble enough to leave those high flying roles and turn around and say, right, now I've lost this position. Because the thing is with those big positions, those C-suite positions, is you say jump and everyone says how high. Right. And then when you go and sell, if you're in that sales environment, the name of the company closes the deal for you. Right. And then, so when a lot of these people leave these high flying positions, that's all gone.
Because
the position's
gone.
Yeah. Their connection's gone. Their influence is gone. Everything's gone. And people are like, sorry, who are you again? And show me your history. And it's almost like as a small business owner, everything changes. And I've been, like I said, blessed to work with a couple of people, one man and one lady particularly jumped to my mind, who were humble enough to turn around and say, back then in that position, I was the top of my game. Starting a small business is a completely different skill set, which I do not currently have. And what they did was join us on our Ascentive Pro. They also went on things like some of the sales training. They leveraged some of the other experts at that level to allow them to get the business to a position where they could then use their skill set. But not everyone does that.
You have to invest in your training, in yourself. And you won't believe all the guests that I've interviewed on the podcast, training or investing in yourself has been one of the biggest aspect of all the successful entrepreneurs that have made their business.
Yeah, I remember we talked about when I first came here, I was employed. And I remember being involved with the BNI networking at the time, and I still had a job at that time. And I remember my first session that I went to, and I did the network, and they said, right, now you've got to come to one of the training programs. And I think it was something like 100 dirhams. And I remember going, 100 dirhams? I'm not paying that for learning. And I was like, my company needs to pay for that. And that was my mindset. I don't pay for myself. My company needs to, and if the company won't pay for it, then I won't do it.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people are when they start their small business, because they're looking at
going outside.
Yeah, people know the price of everything and the cost of nothing.
Yeah.
They know the price of everything and the cost of nothing. So they rather hold on to 100 dirhams, but it will cost them thousands in terms of missed business. It took me years to learn that. And when I did, oh my goodness, there's been years when I've spent 30, 40, 50,000 dirhams on education, and it's come out of my pocket really quickly because I know you're going to benefit from it.
I am having a slight regret now for not doing the referral marketing course.
Or maybe
quite a lot.
Maybe you're learning, someone else will pick up on it.
I mean, there's never too late to start something new.
Never is. This is true.
And to start again. You have written some amazing books. 5 books or more, I think, 6.
And the one you don't want to read.
I don't know if I would not want to read any of those books.
Oh, you would, unless you're an insomniac. It was for my master's thesis. And it was, I think it was TQM, which was Total Quality Management, a comparative review between Spain and the UK. Yeah, that would send you to sleep, I think.
That sounds interesting, actually. But one of your books is called Branding Schmamming?
Branding Schmanding.
Branding Schmanding. Tell us more about that. I remember you having a conversation with you about this, how people don't understand the difference between branding themselves and their company.
Yeah, a number of different things. I think what it came from is in a lot of my networking sessions, and a lot of my clients have been in the branding space. And one of the biggest challenges is actually explaining what branding is to people that don't know what it is.
What is it?
So here we go. So I'm not going to go down that route, but that's why I wrote the book. But what the point was, because they couldn't explain it to people who didn't understand, they couldn't explain it. They just said, you need to pay for branding. Everyone was going, well, what is it? And I'm going, yeah, but you need to pay for it. They couldn't really explain what it was. So I wrote the book from a perspective of a small business owner who had absolutely no idea what branding was. And not as a branding expert myself. So I just wrote the book, and there you go.
So how can an individual, there is a difference between branding yourself and branding your company.
Mm-hmm.
When you brand your company, and if you're the face of the company, aren't you automatically branding the company with you?
Well, they're linked. I think the interesting thing is, you can have a look at some personal brands. Take someone like Richard Branson, for example. Yeah. How many businesses he's launched? They've all, not all, but most have been successful. But his brand as an individual supersedes all of that. He's got more followers on LinkedIn than any of his companies. He's got a bigger brand than any of his companies. So you can have both. And of course, if you as the owner of your business, I think if you brand yourself as well as the business, you can influence the business and it can be great for the business. And then if one day you choose to sell the business, your brand still goes with you because you've got your own brand.
Yeah.
And many of us do launch a couple of businesses and we can carry that brand and it will enhance the success of the next business because you're carrying your brand with you.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to consider, definitely.
I have so many clients who don't want to be the face of their business. They're running these successful companies, but there's no face to it. It's the company.
Yeah, and I think when you go to sell your business, that actually makes your business easier to sell.
But then
so there is benefits to that as well.
There is it? But if somebody doesn't want to be the face of the company, still, it can.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different horses for courses, but you can still not be the face of your company, I suppose, and still have your own brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're your own brand, and the company is a separate brand.
You can have your own brand, yeah. And but if you are linked to your business, then there is a direct correlation, which means all your behavior and everything you do impacts the brand of the business.
Yes.
Which is something we do learn a lot here.
You have another book called The 7 Deadly Startup Sins. And it's about why 50% of the companies fail by year 3.
Yes. So that was because in a sense, if we've worked with thousands of businesses all over the world, and we are, our niche tends to be in that first sort of 7 to 10 years when people are really, they got less options in terms of finance. And so you do see repeatedly the same kind of mistakes being made.
And what are these mistakes that people do? It's the same kind of mistakes.
Get your book in Amazon.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, there's many mistakes. But I mean, without going down the thing, you tend to see just things like, people don't leverage their network and the implications of that. Throwing money into the wrong place, investing in the wrong product, not doing your market research, not understanding finances, not understanding cash flow, all those kind of little things. But instead of putting them all as little bullet points, I summarize them into 7 sections.
Okay.
But it was interesting because we researched all our franchisees all over the world, and it was the same things that people were saying. So I put them all into a book. Book went to bestseller, which was nice, and then made a digital course off the back. But the interesting thing, Namita, how few people will actually read it in advance.
Before the course.
Exactly. It's like your mum. Your mum says to you when you're a kid, whatever you do, don't put your finger in there. It's hot. So what does the kid do? Put the finger in there. And I think running a business is the same. People go, there's a book that can help you out. And people are like, don't want to read that.
No, straight away go into business.
So I think, you come back to you said about education earlier on.
Yeah.
I think if people can be open to looking at these kind of things, they can save themselves a world of pain. But as human beings, we don't want to. Yeah.
And all the books are available on Amazon?
Absolutely.
So if you go to Amazon and search Phil Bedford, we can find all the books written by you. There you go. You can find Phil's book on Amazon. There's one more I would like to talk about, which is your online. It's called You Are on Mute. That is an ebook or it's a...
You're on Mute? No, it's a physical book. Yep.
I need to, I would love to actually, I'm going to buy that book and read myself because it's about video online networking, like your Zoom.
Yeah. And
because we're doing more business online nowadays, more calls.
Exactly. I mean, the world's changed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this really, 3 of my books came during COVID. I wrote during COVID. And this was one that it just seemed so obvious to write because we were all networking online. And it was interesting because I found people were, I mean, obviously the title speaks for itself. How often were you on Zoom and someone was speaking and you couldn't hear them and everyone's going, "You're on mute, mate." So that's where the name came from, obviously. But, people would spend a fortune watching the way they dressed, branding their websites, everything to do with the normal. And then they would turn up on a Zoom call in their pajamas, doing a professional call in front of their bed or with their laundry behind. And I'm thinking, hold on a second, we spent all this time putting on makeup or maybe you do, I didn't. But, whatever it is, doing all these things. And then people were turning up like that. And I'm thinking, there's subconscious messaging going on here all the time. Your lighting's not good or your voice is bad. And yet in the real world, we worry about this, but not online.
I agree.
Other things were starting to kick in as well. Like the follow-up was bad or people were turning up late for the Zoom calls or dropping off. And I'm just sitting there thinking, we're sending all these messages to people, but doesn't matter because we're all on Zoom.
Yeah.
But it does matter. And that was what the book was,
matter.
just to get people to think maybe a little bit.
And it does matter. The background, the way you present yourself, the lighting, if you're dark, people can't see you. It all matters. And a lot of times nowadays, people don't switch on the camera. I have to actually request, could you please put the camera on so I can see you? So we can look at each other and have a call.
Well, I mean, on all
And these
of
are
my
business meetings.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I can't believe how many people. I turned up for an international networking session once, and I'd say 90% of the people didn't have their camera on, and I didn't go back because why am I going to build relationships with people that can't be bothered to put their video on?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm not dressed. Well, get dressed.
Exactly. You should be dressed for the call.
Yeah, get dressed for the call. How can your mind be in the right place and show respect for everyone else if that you can't be anyway, whatever. So don't get me started on that one. But yeah, the thing is, in the real world, you wouldn't go to a networking event with a black bag on your head.
Yeah.
You show who you are, because ultimately, as human beings, if you want people to like you, refer you, trust you, you have to see them, know who they are. And if someone's trying to hide some part of themselves, again, subconsciously,
you
we
don't
might
trust
be
that.
going, I don't trust you.
I don't trust you. If I don't see you, I'm sorry. Something is wrong. Interesting. These are some online networking and business meeting etiquettes.
It is. I think depending on where we are in the world, sometimes we've got to be a little bit forgiving here, because there are certain places where, especially in this part of the world, people are covered. And that might add a dynamic to it. So I think if you're being culturally sensitive, there's times where you can say, okay, I get it. But for most of us, I don't think that's really the case.
You teach businesses on CEOs and other business owners on how to have a work-life balance. How can a business owner want to network? He or she has to invest in education and training and referral marketing and running the business, also being operations, also being HR and everything. How do you bring in this work-life balance?
Well, I think there's always some sort of discussion around whether balance is even possible.
Is
right?
it?
So depending on where you are in your business, what's happening, sometimes you do have to work crazy hours, and balance goes out the window, right? And then other times you might be a little bit further down your journey and you've got more time for your family. So I think it's more about finding harmony with where you are in your journey at the right point in time. But I think where I come from more than anything is I see so much wasted time in most people's day. And it's simple things like just calendarizing, or looking at the way we generate tasks or handle tasks, or the jobs we take on board instead of outsourcing. And I think it's just that, like I said, there are always times when we work crazy hours. But I think it's also about the discipline to say when you're not going to work, and when you are willing to work, and then being efficient in that. So little things like I mentioned, right, like calendarizing. Calendarizing your business development activities, putting stuff in that's important. But a lot of people won't do that because they'd rather keep their options open in case something better pops up. And then what happens is someone else will jump in, and then suddenly you're living somebody else's life. It's somebody else's calendar. It's what's important to somebody else instead of what's important to you. And I think if you little tips like starting to take control of your calendar, and then getting people to schedule around that when you can, drawing a line saying when you are and you're not willing to work, apart from specific, the odd time or whatever. I can't believe how many people, it's big for me to, and this is just my model of the world, right? So you've got to choose what works for you. I can't tell somebody not to work 7 days a week if that's what they love, right? This is just the way I like it. But for me, Saturday and Sunday's for family, right? So I will be as efficient as I possibly can in the week so that I can do that. Whereas other people may not, they may choose not to. But I can't, one thing I find is, I can't believe that people are so disorganized that they have to jump on the phone on a Saturday morning and start doing business with something that could have been done the day before. And then they could have been there for their kids or there for the family without having to do that. And I think it's just structure, but I also understand the fact that culturally, some people may enjoy working weekends. It's part of their culture. So I think we also have to say, just because it works for me doesn't mean it has to work for everybody. People find different kinds of harmony. Yeah. My harmony just involves a little bit more time for myself and my family. Other people show their love in a different way by working more. So again, we have to understand it's different.
Yeah. What are the different tools that you use for your business to stay organized? Are there any particular apps that you use that helps you stay organized? Do you have VAs?
I do have a virtual assistant. Yep, I outsource to a company called MyPA. Used them for many years. So started using them as soon as I realized it was costing me more in terms of time and money to do the task myself.
Like what task would you give to a VA?
Basic admin, structuring, strategizing, sending out the actual invoices, scheduling, some basic stuff, anything that's admin, because there's a point for all of us where you're better off paying someone else than you are doing it yourself. And it's understanding when that happens so that you can do that. But a lot of people end up doing everything themselves and then they don't do the important stuff. Because ultimately in business, there's only two activities: making money and losing money. And the trouble is a lot of us spend a lot of our time on the losing money activities, and we need to move back more to the money making ones.
That's
right?
when the organization comes in, that you invest your time.
Yeah.
So as business owners, a lot of us wear a lot of different hats. We don't really need to wear so many hats.
Exactly that. So you can start outsourcing, or you can start delegating, or maybe not doing them at all, or learning to say no, or structuring your travel time better. There's always ways I swear, you give me most people and I could save them a day in a week with wasted time. Small business owners, at least a day a week.
You know, I have a membership program where during the call, in the introduction call, all the members had one problem, which was delegating. They didn't trust their subordinates with the task because they thought they would do it better. This is another struggle because you don't trust your team member or whoever you're delegating to, and you end up doing the task myself. I might as well do it myself. I'll do it better than that person. That is also a mindset issue because you have a trust issue on your team.
Well, I mean, this would be another podcast for you to bring in another expert on, wouldn't it? Be delegation.
Yeah.
But Seth Godin, I remember he did a great podcast once, and he once said that he suffered from this. He wouldn't delegate because he knew he could do it better himself. But then he realized that if I don't delegate, I'm never going to stop doing it. And for a little while, they may not be as good as you initially, but if you give them the tools and the resources, they could become better than you. And ultimately, isn't the business owner's job to employ people that are better than him or her at whatever those roles are?
Yeah.
Ultimately, right?
Yeah, ultimately, you have to have the smarter people so you can be on the business, not in the business.
Yeah. And then, of course, you got the dynamic of, some people will train their staff and others won't. So you got to invest in your staff, find the right people. Then, of course, you got more inclination of retention and all that kind of dynamic. You got plenty more podcasts coming in. I think you can bring all these
There's
experts
so many
in
different
off the
topics
back
we
of
can cover. Are there any particular tools you use that make you more optimized in the way you organize your week? Any particular apps you would like to share?
No, not particularly any apps that help me with delegation at all. I think the other curse is that we start to pull in too many apps, right? And each app we have to open is another thing to take us away. I tell you what, I think the biggest secret I'd have apart from calendarizing is what I call the turkey strategy.
The turkey strategy.
Turkey strategy for getting jobs done. Okay, this is my name, the turkey strategy. But it actually came from when I did my degree, project management. So it's called critical path analysis, and it came out of engineering. So when you do project management, when you do building design and buildings and all that, you'll have different parts of the business working at different times. So let me give you an idea. So I'm hoping people have made a turkey at some point in time. So if you're going to put a turkey on, right? A turkey's a big bird, and how long does a turkey take to cook?
I don't know. I've never made.
You've never done it, right?
No,
okay, so a turkey could take 5 hours.
Wow.
Right,
Okay.
3, 4, 5 hours, especially if you're defrosting it and whatever, defrost it, freeze it. I mean, whatever. Anyway, so you have so in the Western world, a lot of us do Christmas meals, right? So we have a big turkey, and the turkey takes 5 hours, right? And then around the turkey you'll have potatoes that might take half an hour to cook, maybe an hour. Then you'll have veg that takes minutes, right? Okay, so if you've got something that takes 5 hours and you've got things that take minutes, which one would you cook first?
The 5, depends on my time.
Well, there you go. So if I start, I'll tell you what I'm going to do then. I'm going to start cooking the veg first. That takes a couple of minutes. Then I'll do the potatoes. Then I'll go out and I'll go and do the bank run. And I'll take the kids to the shops. And then I'll come back and, oh, hold on, I've got 1 hour before my guests come. I better put the turkey in. Oh, my goodness, my turkey takes 5 hours. Right? And that's how a lot of people handle their business.
I now understand.
Right? Instead of saying, well, hold on a second, the thing that's going to take the longest is my turkey. So if I put my turkey in, then I can trip with the kids, then I can get that done, then I can do this, then I can pop back in, I can quickly pop my veg in, and my guests can come in and I can serve. But instead, people run their business by putting the turkey in last.
Yeah. We keep procrastinating the tough tasks.
Yeah. So let's look in our day and say, what can I do now that can be ticking away in the background while I do other things? Instead of doing just what comes up next.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
You know, I heard your TED talk on the business secrets of 32,000 BC.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Like to share that.
Oh my goodness me. You did do your research.
The main business secret you would like to share, or?
I mean, what it came down to was, again, it was a BBC.
Came down to network, yeah.
Yeah, it was a BBC documentary that got me thinking. And what it came down to was that the Neanderthal and the Homo sapiens were sort of our ancestors, right? Or Homo sapiens were. But what happened is when you actually look at it, the Neanderthal were a stronger species, more physically able. So and basically they would fight. But the point was what I couldn't understand was how could a weaker species, which was the Homo sapien, our ancestors, how could our ancestors survive against a stronger species? On the research, what it came down to was it was actually the way that the weaker species interacted amongst itself. So it did things like it had social elements. It actually moved towards sharing in between communities. They would help each other. Whereas the Neanderthal, on the face of it, were smaller groups. They didn't share between themselves, and so they were limited. And if we look at that, isn't that what networking is? It's ultimately about how do you collaborate, how do you share, how do you build together, how do you get better together, how do you share materials, weapons, whatever, and you grow. And I think that for me was the perfect example of how networking could help us all.
And it's amazing how you went back and got this inspiration from 32,000 BC. Together we rise.
Together we rise, absolutely.
Phil, I can go on and on talking to you about different topics on networking and referral. I mean, we need to have you back again soon for sure, for another podcast, maybe another topic. And we can go deeper and detail into that. How would you like the audience to reach out to you if they want to work with you, be part of the referral marketing or SPC? Where can they find information about all these events you do?
It's always nice to meet anyone. Luckily, I've got a couple of different ways. So feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Phil Bedford. Just drop me a note and say hi. Let me know about that you were listening to this. If you'd like to come and experience a different way of networking, and the real way networking should be done, strategicbusinessconnect.com. Or Facebook as well, or reach out to this podcast. Wouldn't that be a lovely way?
Yes.
Reach out to Namita and say, I'm trying to reach Phil, and she can give me a referral.
I will be actually mentioning Phil's all details in the show notes below. So you can find Phil's website, his social profiles, and everything for you to reach out to him. Thank you so much, Phil, for being part of the podcast, being our guest. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Been a pleasure being here.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. We can go on and on talking to Phil about networking and referral marketing. But seems like we have to attend his courses because he's not willing to share more deeper strategies otherwise. So let's head on to his website. Until then, happy networking and see you in the next episode.